Hello, today we're going to be looking at postmodernism. So this is for the AQA Beliefs in Society A2 module. Now, the objectives for today are simply going to be looking at and understanding the postmodernist views for religion in society today. So this is an interesting style of the topic, and it is actually going to really help to contextualise modern religious followings for you in today's society. So modernity, postmodernity and religion. So the theory of postmodernity argues that society has passed or begun to pass from modern to postmodern era. And the modern era is characterised by the importance of science and rationality. So the idea of a positivist approach. Now the belief in that the progress is possible and desirable, and the belief that humans can plan using theories to make the world a better place. So therefore the idea of rational choice really coming into and ideally creating a society that will foundationally make their decisions based off of scientific evidence rather than subjective opinion. Letard here, who's a leading theorist for the postmodernists, states that the postmodern era is characterised by decline in the meta-narratives. Now, meta-narratives are simply the big stories about how the world works and how it can be improved and how people should behave as a result. So realistically now, the postmodern era is going to be focused on the decline of this. So the fact that things like the Ten Commandments aren't really anymore dictating and controlling how people are behaving. However, people are aware of the disaster effects these meta-narratives have had. So by the sheer fact that these have actually encouraged or allowed wars to happen as a result, such as between the in Israel, between the Jews and the Muslims there. They are no longer passive and simply accepting these views because they realise that they can be problematic for the world as a result. Now, Bauman in 1992 believes that in modernity people search for universal truths, so theories that are always going to be true for them. For us here, for the postmodernists, they actually would reject this view because they'd believe that they aren't searching for these universal truths, that their theories are always going to be true. They're going to look for theories which are going to help them rationally explain what they're experiencing in the world. So they will pick and choose in a consumerist fashion here what ideology is best suited for them at this moment of time. So why do postmodernists reject this? So postmodernity rejects the idea of universal truths and denies that that other people have authority over you. Instead, people have an almost unlimited choice as to what to believe and how to behave. So realistically, the truth lies with the individual rather than with someone else. Now, as we know, religion has started to change as a result due to the shift in society. So postmodernists believe that religion is changing rather than declining. And these changes are a result of changes that have occurred within wider society. So the rise of greater individualism, so the focus on yourself in terms of your selfish rewards here, in terms of you don't want to spend a lot of time worshipping, when realistically right now, in this modern society, you have got other demands on yourself. So you're looking for religion particularly which will not be quite taxing for your time. And then consumerism, so searching out the best bargain in this sense. So looking for the religion that will help you deal with what really impacts you in your life, rather than worshipping a huge religion which will only really apply to minor parts of your existence. So without rules found in modernity, the idea that a rational plan can be devised to perfect society. People have to make their own ethical choices. Without agreed ethics in society as a whole, morality is privatised as a personal choice. So as a result, religion has become more privatised, meaning there is no longer a social pressure on people to go to church. This explains why church attendance figures have dropped, and plus why postmodernists believe that they can't be used as evidence for secularization, purely because individuals are now doing private worship at home. So even though they might not be very public about it, they may still continue this ideology in a very private practice. Because they will not want to exert or try to force others to create this choice, and because everyone else seemingly has weighed up the rational options and decided what is best for them. Now, Davey in 2007 discusses this and claims we live in a time where we can believe without belonging. She also claims that there is a trend towards vicarious religion. Despite low levels of church attendance, many people still use it for rites of passage. So we can really still, particularly if we look at Christianity here, you can still be a Christian and believe in everything that Christianity promotes without having to belong to a specific church. So you can do the worship at home without having to go to this public sphere where these rituals take place. However, you still use these rites of passage throughout Christianity to be goalposts for your life. Now, Davey has in various places defined vicarious religion as the notion of religion performed by an active minority but on behalf of a much larger number, who implicitly at least not only understand but quite clearly approve of what the minority is doing. So the minority is still doing that worship on behalf of a larger number, but they may be doing it more on a privatized basis. And obviously all of this is still with the wider Christian church still knowing that individuals still belong to the Christian church without having them actually attend. Now, for example, church structures are no longer able to discipline the behaviours and beliefs of Europeans. There is still some support for their public utility. As she points out, although relatively few people are attending these churches, there is still a certain expectation that they would do things on behalf of a wide number of people when the need arises. So obviously you can look at the public events such as funerals and weddings where these religious rituals and rites are still used and really promoted as a part of those particular goalposts. So individuals still utilise them. Now, if you scan this code, it takes you through to an interesting article which will elaborate this further for you. Now, the support for Davey here was found by Biddy's Canadian survey, who found that only 25% of the Canadians attended church regularly. However, 80% said that they had religious beliefs, identified with religious traditions, and used religion for rites of passage and continue to have a supernatural interest as well. So realistically, only 25% of them actually attended the physical church community, whilst 80% still identify. They still use these religious rituals, but on more of a privatised basis now. So you can believe without having to belong to that community now. And this is perfect evidence really being demonstrated by Biddy's here. However, evidence from the British Social Attitude Survey shows that both church attendance and belief in God are declining. So if Davey were right, then we should be higher levels of belief. So therefore, we'll start to see maybe Britain might be a different category here. The fact of the matter is maybe there is a decline in belief in terms of a supernatural figure. Bruce also claims that if people are not willing to go to church, then this reflects a decline in the strength of their beliefs. So in theory here, if you are a believer, you should be willing to belong to a community of those believers as a result. So the idea of privatised worship is not good enough really for Bruce. You really need to be attending that church as a result. So you can believe, but you have to belong according to both of these views. Obviously, the British Social Attitude Survey here is probably highlighting the fact that we are heading towards a secularised society due to the decline in the belief system in terms of the attendance and belief in God. So, modern society and religion. Now, postmodernists emphasise personal choice and developed the concept of spiritual shopping. Whilst traditional institutional religion has declined and religion has not disappeared, it's now become individualised, and people feel like they can treat it a bit like when they go to Tesco's. They can pick and choose the bits that they feel that really apply to their lives. And they don't have to be these traditional religions. They could be these new emerging religions which are providing them with a belief system which can help them deal with the pressures of modern day life. So religion has become a personal spiritual journey in which people choose the elements we want to explore more and which groups to join. So we no longer, as a result, due to our geographical situation, are confined to just Christianity. Due to the globalisation of religion, we have now got more religions in our society which we are exposed to. Therefore, we've got greater choice in which we can choose from. Even if they're not exposed to in terms of our community, there and then in our society, we can look on the internet and we can find out more about these belief systems. Now, Bauman in 1992 states people continue to want guidance in what rules to follow, and they turn to experts for this advice. And these aren't always just supernatural beings. These can be people like gurus, in which then they provide information and a belief system for these people to follow, and therefore allowing them to explore their spirituality and themselves deeper, whilst giving them the confidence to really negotiate society as a result. Now, Bauman in 1992, and we can see him in that picture there smoking his pipe, he argues religious leaders are experts in morality. So some people look to them for help because they are wiser, and therefore they should be able to provide them with the appropriate guidance on how to deal with modern society. Unlike the modern era, people can turn to any religious leaders now, not just the ones they are brought up to respect in their mainstream society. They can use the internet, go to various places, and they can travel to these areas, which then can influence their ideas as to what is happening in their lives and how to deal with them. And they can respect these figures just as they would respect the local priest in which they've grown up with for their whole life. Now, continuation with Bauman here. He states further, this leads to more interest in religion and much greater religious pluralism, which is more tolerance and acceptance of other religious views. People can also change their religious beliefs if they wished. So whatever beliefs they follow, however they take them, less seriously than they did in the modern era. So it's no longer there is no longer the need for you to really just be restricted by that one religion. You could pick and choose, and you can choose the different religions that you're exposed to and really use those religious beliefs to help you negotiate society. However, when we were restricted to just that one religion, we took those beliefs a lot more seriously because we knew that that was the bedrock of our community. Whilst now, due to that pluralism of the religious beliefs, we no longer would take them as seriously as we did in the past. So, in theory, we're not eliciting the same responsibility to religion as we once did. Now, the criticism of Bauman here, it comes from Beckford in 1996. He argues that Bauman ignores that the fact religion has remained an important feature throughout history, a decline in modernity but revived in postmodernity. Bauman also contradicts himself by arguing that people make their own choices, but they still turn to religious experts for advice. So in theory here, that religion will always be a part of our society. The sheer fact that, yes, it's declined in our modern society due to the secularization, but we can start to see religion has started to become more and more crucial to individuals' lifestyles because it gives them that belief system. However, the way in which we view religion is no longer just that one-trick pony. We've now got we've got a plethora of religions which we can pick and choose from, and we will choose the best belief system that helps me in my life. And we aren't really just autonomous beings anymore. We aren't making the decisions wholly for ourselves. We're still relying on that one important religious expert to tell us how and what we should believe. Now, new religious followers. So as a result, two new religious followers are emerging that respond to this new individualised religious choice option. And we've got the pilgrims who focus on self-discovery and personal development. So look at the movie like Eat, Pray, Love, where it is all about self-discovery and really focusing on developing yourself as an individual to make yourself more of a rounded individual as a result. Converts, so religious groups that offer a strong sense of belonging and give individuals a sense of community. So the individual adopts that religious ideology whilst also looking for that community to belong to. So we can see that in terms of traditional religions such as Christianity or Islam or Judaism. Now, as a result of these two new brands of religious followers, religion no longer acts as a source of collective identity, although it does still continue to have some influence on society's values. So we know that it can be very individualised as a response. It could be very small communities that could follow or listen to this religious ideology, rather than it being the whole nation as a result. Now we're going to move on to Lion. So this is the chap in the picture that I've just zoomed in on. Now he believes that postmodernism elements are developing society with globalization. The development of information technology and the growth of a consumer society, this has led people to having a greater choice, including a choice of gods. As a result, as I've said earlier, we've got more religions being brought into our society. We can use the internet to research these belief systems, which then allows us to pick and choose the ones that we would find best or most interesting for our lifestyle. Because of these changes, religion is relocating to the sphere of consumption. So we are now going to just consume bits of the belief system rather than it being a part of the other spheres. People are now unwilling to be forced to accept the authority of Christian church religion, but instead choose a religious narrative that appeals to them. So they will choose that religious narrative that will help them in their society deal with the pressures and the anxieties that they face on a day-to-day basis, which also still is answering those big life questions of birth, life, death and marriage, that they will still develop those belief systems that still help them as a result. Now, religion is no longer a social institution, but rather a cultural resource people draw on if they wish. So, for example, a religious event, the Harvest Day Crusade, has been held at Disneyland, showing religion has become a part of consumer culture and mixing with postmodern fantasy world of Disney. So we can see that these two have become increasingly intertwined due to the consumerist rising or orientation society has become taken to both our pleasure as well as our belief. An extension of this can be seen with the rise of particular theme parks such as the Holy Land experience. Now, this experience offers individuals the ability to enjoy their religious belief in a theme park setting. So they can experience the Holy Land stories, so the stories of Jesus Christ, and really get delved deep into it. So this is just a theme park in itself, but the theme parks are consumer-based, consumer-led. So individuals will go here absorbing and picking and choosing what they feel would suit them best in their lives. And this would be an experience where they could be a pilgrimage in a sense, where they could go to that as a spiritual journey. And as a result of this spiritual journey, they would come out a more rounded individual. Now, they would possibly not be forced to go to this. This would be something really that an individual would choose to help develop their belief system further. Now, Lyon argues dedifferentiation is taking place. This is a blurring of the boundaries between different parts of social life. Instead, this case, the distinction between religion and popular culture is being affected. So we can see quite clearly with the rise of the Holy Land and the use of the Harvest Crusade there in Disneyland, that difference between popular culture, such as Disney or theme parks, is now being blurred with the religious belief and contextualization there. So really, in terms of postmodernity, we can start to see that this is what's happening in our societies. Now, this has led to the rise of religious consumerism. So we now construct our identities through what we choose to consume. Religion is part of this, and we act as spiritual shoppers, choosing religious beliefs and practices that meet our needs from all those that are available in the religious marketplace. Because we know, due to globalization, we have got a plethora of religions we can choose from. So we become those spiritual shoppers, and we will go to things like that Holy Land experience and to try get those belief systems that will help us in the modern world. So, and now a link with line, we can pick and mix parts of different religions to help meet our needs. Line refers to this as religion moving into the sphere of consumption, where individuals make conscious choices and the parts of religion that they find useful. So we're going to really start to find different belief systems possibly becoming mixed due to the individual looking for these belief systems which best help them in their society, in their lives, in the modern world, or postmodern world in this case. Now, continued here, having an access to such a variety of religious products has resulted in a loss of faith in meta-narratives. So meta-narratives, remember, are those big overarching stories which really help you have with those existential reasons or universal meanings of life. Therefore, traditional and previously dominant religious organisations lose their authority because of the range of different contradictory ideas. In their place, a range of new religious movements, otherwise known as NRMs, have developed. So we can start to get those new belief systems in, which will then maybe contradictory to our mainstream religious ideas that used to really be the only option for us. And this is, as I said earlier, is a result of that globalization and the fact that the information technology has risen, because we can access it, we can consume it, and we can really start to find our own meanings to life. And rather than being passive consumers of one religion that is dominant within our society. Now, this is just an extension article which I picked up, which we've read in lesson, which is AltGlass in 2015, who argues that the pick and mix culture isn't as dominant as Line would argue, as the views that are collected are not as eclectic as assumed. There are universal teachings shared by these belief systems, which are similar, meaning that individuals consuming similar information. So if we look at these different new NRMs that are emerging, these belief systems are actually very similar to what we might categorise as the traditional religions. However, due to their different names, individuals are picking and choosing them due to the belief that they are new modern ideals. However, they may be more traditional. So therefore, realistically, this eclectic nature isn't as true as Line is promoting to us. Instead, they are still maybe sticking to the traditional views, but just with a different name associated to those views. Now, Line really gets developed here. It's the reenchantment of the world. Line criticises the secularization theory for assuming that there's been a decline in religion. Contrary to Weber's prediction that rationalisation and disenchantment of the world would happen, Line believes that we've gone through a period of reenchantment with the growth of unconventional beliefs and spirituality, as we can see due to that increase of the NRMs and as well as the eclectic nature of the different belief systems that are slowly emerging as a result. Now, the evidence for this is the growth of non-traditional religion in the West and the resurgence of religion elsewhere in the world. So we can see that we really, places where religion has taken a back step have now started to become part of, again, mainstream societal belief systems, which obviously is showing again that religion is now becoming, again, a part of our societies even more so. Now, the criticisms for Line. Bruce here sees the changes described by Line as evidence of secularization. Obviously, as we know, Line would argue against that. Due to society rather than a revival of religion in the postmodern world. Today, only weak religion is left that has little influence over people's lives, unlike in the past where strong religions were present. So we have got these plethora of religions that are dominating our sphere in terms of religious choice, but they are only weak. Because there are so many, they're going to have various points of view, therefore no strong unifying front exists, which is really what the strong religions in the past had as a main characteristic or feature. Modern religious media. However, how far can the growth of religious media, electronic church, and consumerist religion be used as an argument against secularization? It's unlikely that religious media attracts many new converts. Instead, people are more likely to choose to watch shows that confirm their existing beliefs. Bruce believes that consumerist religion is weak religion and has little effect on the lives of its members. Therefore, he argues that it is evidence of secularization. Due to, obviously, religious media, we're consuming it, but it is not as strong and it is not as powerful as mainstream religion once was. So that is it for postmodernism. If you have got any questions, let me know.